It's been about 2 years since I started the series on Revelation, and a very important story that I have to share with you that took place in the beginning that I've shared in the past, but most of you probably don't know this story. I apologize if I'm repeating myself. But in the very beginning, when I was going to go through Revelation, there was a moment in time when I was out mowing the lawn and I was praying, and there's not that many times. At that moment, that was only the second time that God was talking to me audibly, like in sentences. We had like this 45-minute long conversation between him and I would ask questions and he would respond. And ultimately, the message that I got from him is, if you're going to do this, if you're going to go through the book of Revelation, it's going to be my way. It's going to be verse by verse. You're going to get on a path, and you're going to stay on that path. And if you get off that path, there's actually going to be consequences to you, because I laid it out perfectly. And this message came while I was mowing, because as you mow, you kind of do a pattern. We all have this path we're on when we mow, and he made it very clear. He used that to teach me that lesson. And at one point, I got off the path and I face planted into a pine tree, and all this pollen, just so much pollen. It's like a cloud of pollen. It's almost as if somebody took a pie tin filled with pollen and just put it right in my face. I couldn't breathe. I actually questioned whether or not I was going to survive that moment, because I could not. I was literally suffering from pollen poisoning and suffocation by pollen. And as I went in to kind of catch my breath and kind of wash my face off, COVID had just hit. I remember telling my wife, I can't breathe, but it's not COVID, it's pollen. And then I got back on the mower and I said, okay, God, I get it. Like, I get it. You made it very clear. Don't get off this path. And then I came to this area of a garden that I'd been working on, and I had to stop and kind of tend to that little area. And he said, this is it. This is also what you need to do. So get on the path. Stay on the path. Do not get off of the path, or there will be consequences. But every now and then, stop and make everything beautiful. And that's where we're at now. And the reason this is so important in this moment is because the last episode I just posted last night, End of Times episode 148, the title was literally, No One Shall Save You. It's a very dark message. Happens to be the part of Revelation we're at. It's a very dark place. But the beautiful thing about Revelation 18 is it's in chapter 19 that Jesus returns. It's always at the darkest moment that the light breaks through, and we are in the story. We're at the darkest moment, and I think that at one point last night I was also showing my wife that video, because I felt like God really spoke into that, and she told me that she kind of wished that I saw God the way she saw God. That she sees God. And it was really interesting, because I started to write down what it was she was saying. And as she spoke, I just smiled and smiled and smiled, because she was saying the same things I see. Like, she was seeing the same things I see, because I thought she was seeing something I didn't see. But it's about your interpretation of what it is you're seeing as well. Because, in the end, when there's no hope, when it's hopeless, when there's despair and it just seems like nothing good is ever going to happen, that's when God gives birth to something that is new. It's about labor pains. When a woman goes through labor, it's painful, it's terrifying. But then in that moment, in just a moment, when that birth has been fulfilled, it's a beautiful. There's just beauty and love is all that remains. And this is what God is doing. So, I share the stories with you primarily for a couple reasons. Number one, I've said this in the past, it's something you're going to love or hate about me. I always got a short story to tell. But the purpose of it is that we're at that place where it's time to just kind of start making it beautiful. We have to start making it beautiful, because this is a beautiful story. Good wins, light wins. There is no darkness. Jesus reigns with the saints. You know, it's a beautiful, beautiful story. We inherit the universe. You know, we don't just inherit the earth, we inherit the universe. And heaven. It's a beautiful story. You know, and even as I showed that to my wife, that video, you know, I reminded her that it's the darkest hour. Like, I was literally just preaching on the darkest hour, and you know, when you go verse by verse, you have to go through the dark things as well. But it's a moment in time where we have to show the beauty in it, because it's, you know, I said at the beginning of the series that the great thing about Revelation is that most people are afraid to read it, but it's a beautiful story. It's incredibly beautiful. The end is just, it's heartfelt. It's filled with love. It's filled with goodness. It's filled with being able to lay down anything that hurts, anything that's painful from the past, being able to lay all that down and just live as we were meant to live. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And it's time that, you know, I get it. When you're going through all these things in Revelation, it's dark, dark, darkness, 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 darkness. God said verse by verse, but we're at that moment in time where it's time to show really the beauty in this story. And I share this because we are going to take some time. We're going to continue to go through verse by verse. There's still a lot of dark things to talk about. But alongside that, we're going to talk about the beauty in it. And this is why we're doing it, because there is beauty in it. It's not just doom and gloom. And I think that's why people are so afraid to understand what is written within. But just like it says in chapter 1, those who take the time to understand, there's blessings for you. And being able to make it to the end, to the moment where the darkness ends and Jesus reigns, being able to make it to that point alive is what I'm interested in. I want to be standing on this earth and see Jesus return and him say, good job. So there's a lot of beauty in this, and that's where we're going to focus as well, going side by side, because God said at the beginning, and this is that moment in time where we just got to stop. Make everything beautiful, because it is a beautiful story. It is filled with love. God is only love. So when you look at the idea of no one shall save you, you know, if you watch that video, that's about Israel, and it's about Babylon. That's not about me, and that's not about you. So that destruction, that despair, that darkness, that has nothing to do with me or you. That is good news. When we see Babylon get destroyed, what we're going to say is we're going to cheer, because we have been warred against by Babylon for 3.5 years. So when we see him finally get destroyed, there is nothing but justice and love in that event. Even though reading it sounds dark and scary, but living it, it's going to be a beautiful moment in time. And then the next thing we see is the clouds of glory open up and Jesus returned. Again, it's a beautiful, beautiful story. So there you go. That we're going to just kind of pause. We're going to just make it beautiful the way that it was meant to be. It's not all doom and gloom. Any thoughts on that? Put in the comments below. If you like this video, click like and subscribe. Feel called to support this channel to Patreon. That link is also below. But the most important part of this channel, we take prayer requests. So please don't ever hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, and love guns.